My wife called me to tell me she was going to use her hall pass that didn't exist to sleep with a celebrity on a trip. But she came back to find the house empty and no kids. I never thought I'd be telling this story, but here we are. My name is Mark Butler, and for 15 years, I was married to Amy. I never imagined it would end this way, but life has a funny way of showing you things you'd never see coming. It all started like any other marriage, two people madly in love, convinced they could conquer the world together. But things, as they often do, changed, sometimes in ways that feel like a dream, and sometimes in ways that shatter you entirely. We met in college, and I was the older guy, just finishing up my studies while Amy was just beginning hers. It was your typical college romance at first, awkward first dates, getting to know each other, all of it. But then something clicked. She was beautiful, smart, and had this fiery determination I admired. I could tell early on she had a huge heart, even though we were both figuring life out. After dating for 3 years, we got married right after she graduated. Everyone said we were the perfect couple. But looking back now, I realized there were cracks I didn't see. Maybe they were always there, hiding beneath the surface. I thought our love was unbreakable. But the thing about love is that it's not always enough. And sometimes, a single moment can change everything. It all started at a party, one of those nights where you're just there for fun, not realizing that something major is about to shift in your life. We were hanging out with a couple of friends, people who had been together for years and were pretty open-minded when it came to their relationship. That's when they brought up the concept of a celebrity hall pass. Now, I had never heard of it before, but apparently, it's this idea where in a committed relationship, one partner gives the other a hall pass, an agreement that they can sleep with a celebrity without it being considered cheating. At first, I thought it was a joke. I mean, come on, how could something like that ever make sense in a real relationship? But Amy, she seemed intrigued by it. She asked a lot of questions, joked about how she'd pick some Hollywood heartthrob if given the chance, and we laughed it off as just one of those ridiculous things people talk about after a few too many drinks. I made it clear that I wasn't into that idea at all. Marriage is about trust, loyalty, and love, not whatever nonsense this was. But Amy, she kept talking about it. She said, well, what if it was a celebrity you actually liked? Would that be different? I told her it wouldn't matter if we were going to be committed to each other, that was the only rule. At the time, I thought it was nothing. Just an odd conversation I would forget about. But that's the thing with hindsight, it makes everything clearer. Amy was planting seeds in her mind, seeds I didn't notice, seeds that would grow into a situation I could never have predicted. Fast forward a few months, and Amy had to go to a conference in LA. She's always been ambitious, climbing the corporate ladder, working hard at her job. I didn't think much of it. We'd been apart before for business trips. But this time something was different. I'll never forget the phone call I got one night while she was in LA. She sounded upbeat, excited, which wasn't unusual, she always called me to check in when she was traveling. But then, she said something that hit me like a freight train. Hey Mark, just wanted to let you know. I used my hall pass. At first, I didn't process it. I thought she was joking. I thought it was some weird, twisted prank. What are you talking about? I asked, thinking she'd laugh it off. But then she said the words that would forever change my life. I was with Joshua Morrow, the soap star from The Young and the Restless. I felt the room spin. My mind couldn't catch up to what my ears were hearing. My wife, the woman I had shared everything with for 15 years, just told me she had slept with another man, someone I didn't even know, and not just anyone, but a celebrity. I felt sick to my stomach. I couldn't speak. I didn't know how to react. My first thought was, this has to be a joke, right? She's messing with me. I tried calling her back immediately. No answer. I left messages. No response. I thought maybe I was overreacting, but my gut told me something was terribly wrong. For the next few hours, I sat there, staring at my phone, waiting for her to call back, to explain herself. But she didn't. That night, I barely slept. I kept thinking, this can't be happening. She wouldn't do this to me. She's my wife. We've been together for so long. But a part of me knew that the damage had already been done. Something in me had already cracked. The next day, I tried to reach her again. But no luck. I tried calling, texting, even emailing. Nothing. By now, my mind was racing with all the possibilities. Was she telling the truth? Could she really have slept with a soap opera star? Why wouldn't she answer me? And then the more I thought about it, the more I realized Joshua Morrow wasn't even at the conference. I had seen his name on the guest list for past events, but not this time. That's when I started digging. I wasn't going to let this go. I reached out to people who were at the same conference, trying to piece together what had happened. The more I heard, the more everything started to unravel. Amy hadn't been with Joshua Morrow. She had been with a guy who looked exactly like him. A look-alike. A guy who probably made money pretending to be someone he wasn't. I was furious. Betrayed. Devastated. My wife, the woman I had spent half my life with, had not only cheated on me, but she had also lied about it. And not just a small lie, a big, elaborate one. She had told me she'd been with a celebrity, and it turns out it was a stranger. I confronted her when she finally came back. At first, she denied everything. She said I was being paranoid. She played the victim, telling me I was overreacting. She tried to twist the whole situation around, making me feel like I was the one who was crazy. But I had the evidence. I had the photos, the recordings, the timeline. And then, she just snapped. I hired a private investigator to track her every move, and when the report came in, it confirmed everything I already knew. She had been with the look-alike. She had spent an entire night with him, believing she was living out some fantasy with Joshua Morrow. I had the photos to prove it. But the thing that really got to me wasn't the affair. It was the lies. The manipulation. She had convinced herself that what she was doing wasn't wrong. She had convinced herself that because it was a celebrity, it somehow made it okay. And when she couldn't deny the truth anymore, she went into full damage control mode, trying to shift the blame onto me. She told me it didn't mean anything, that it was just one mistake. But I knew better. The next few weeks were a blur. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, couldn't focus on anything other than the fact that everything I thought I knew about my marriage was a lie. I went to a lawyer. I started the divorce process. I had to protect myself. Amy fought me every step of the way. She tried to manipulate the court, lie under oath, and play the victim. But I had the proof. I had the evidence of her affair, her lies, and even recordings of her trying to cover it up. When we went to court, the judge ruled in my favor, upholding our prenuptial agreement. Amy was ordered to pay for the damages, and on top of that, she faced legal consequences for perjury. And then there was the assault. She went after a reporter who was simply trying to take her picture outside the courthouse. She attacked him, and that was the final nail in the coffin. The world finally saw who she truly was. Not the woman I married, but someone who was willing to destroy everything for a few moments of pleasure and a lie. I remember the day she tried to reconcile. She called me, crying, begging for another chance. She said she was sorry, that she made a mistake. But it was too late. I had seen who she really was. There was no going back. I'm still recovering from it all. I'm still healing, but I'll never forget what happened. I'll never forget how Amy's betrayal changed me. I'll never forget the feeling of having everything ripped away in the blink of an eye. If there's one thing I've learned, it's that trust is everything in a relationship. Once it's gone, it's gone. And no matter how much you want to believe someone, once they've shown you who they really are, don't ignore it. Amy's actions taught me that lesson the hard way. But I'm moving forward. I'm rebuilding my life, one day at a time. And I'll never make that mistake again. My wife went on a blind date. What the hell is going on? I guess I should start off by just trying to give some background. I, Jerry 46M, am married to my high school sweetheart, Angela 45F. We have been together for 32 years. We have known each other since kindergarten at Upson Elementary. We started dating when we were in the 8th grade and have never stopped. I really take pride in that. I mean it, we have never had a break, it's not our second time around. We have legitimately been either boyfriend/girlfriend, engaged, or married, every day since we were 14 years old. We got married right after college. We were both 23 then. I went into accounting and got a good job with an accounting firm. I started my own firm when we moved to Rochester a few years later. My wife has been teaching either 3rd or 4th grade for the last 22 years. During that time we had 2 great kids. Our oldest daughter, Veronica 21F, we had right away after we got married. We then had our son, Tom 19M, 2 years later. We have lived a fairly normal American life. Entering this empty nest stage of our lives. Tom is a sophomore in college now and Veronica is a senior. They are both going to the University of Buffalo, which is nice because they are only an hour away. We are financially very well off. In fact, this hasn't been much of a stressor for us in over a decade, got a nice chunk of savings built up. I should be able to retire in about 10 years and so should she. We kind of have the typical tour the country in an RV plan when we get there. For 32 years now we have supported each other. Sure, we have had a few bumps along the road, but nothing major, nothing serious. We both have maintained a decent fitness level. We are social, we are friends with several couples. Our bedroom life has diminished some with age, but it is by no means dead. That's basically it. That's our lives in a nutshell. That's why I can't make sense of what happened last night. Everything leading up to last night seemed normal. I have been recounting the last few weeks all day, and literally nothing sticks out. We both went to work yesterday. I got home about 5:45 p.m. When I got there I noticed that my wife was in the shower. Not her usual routine, but I didn't think anything of it. I went downstairs to get a start on dinner. I had picked up a couple of sirloins so I fired up the grill. I figured some au gratin potatoes and asparagus would pair well. I went on making the full meal. When I was getting close to done I went back to let my wife know dinner was ready. As I entered our master bedroom my wife was sitting at her vanity. The room smelled good and I could tell she had put on her favorite perfume. I had heard the hairdryer earlier but I figured that was just routine. She was sitting there looking amazing. Her highlighted brown hair glowed. She had these curls that spiraled down towards the front of her face. I don't really know how to describe it, but she definitely put some effort into it. She was wearing nothing but this matching lacy bra and panty set. The bra really pushed up and showed her girls off. She was doing her makeup and I said to her, "Hey babe, dinner is ready." Is there something I missed? Do we have plans?" She didn't turn, just kept doing her makeup and said, "No, just me, I'm going on a blind date tonight." I laughed, thinking she was just being ridiculous. I said, "Okay" in a silly tone, and continued, "Well, dinner's ready, so come on down when you're done." I went back to the kitchen where I prepared us 2 plates and set them out on the dining room table. Since Angela was so dolled up, I decided I would go ahead and light a candle and pour us 2 glasses of wine. I had just taken a few bites when she came in. She was wearing a stunning black dress. Hair, makeup were completely done to the max. She looked incredibly sexy. She looked at her plate then back to me, then lifted her small clutch purse. "I told you I was going on a date, you didn't need to make me a plate." I looked at her and said, "Stop already with that nonsense." She replied, "It's not nonsense, I'm going on a date, I'll be home in a few hours. You don't have to wait up." Then she just turned and left. I was still sitting there with my plate in front of me. Just kind of dumbstruck. Did she actually just leave to go on a date? After 30 seconds I got up and walked over to the door, and her car was pulling out of the driveway. As she was driving away she spotted me and just gave a little wave. I went back into the house and grabbed my phone. We have had location sharing for several years now, so I followed her drive. She went to Red, which is one of our favorite places. She really did go on a date. I tried calling her 4 times and got no answer. Then I texted her. She really did go on a date. I tried calling her 4 times and got no answer. Then I texted her. She finally responded when I said I was going to come down to the restaurant. She texted me, "Do not do that, I told you what I was doing, we can talk about this when I get home." I was totally mind blown. My lizard brain was saying go down there, but ultimately reason prevailed. I stewed in the house for a while, unsure of what to make of this. 2 hours ticked by and I knew the place closed soon. I didn't want to give her the satisfaction of thinking I just sat here waiting for her, so I went into the guest bedroom and laid down. It was about 75 minutes later that she walked in. I pretended to be asleep. I was really hurt by what she did. I can't believe she went on a date. My mind just kept having all these thoughts for what seemed like hours but wasn't. Who did she go on a date with? What did they do after? Then it just sort of hit me. I guess she is done with me. 32 years and this is it. We didn't even have a proper conversation. There haven't been any real issues in the last few years that she has brought to my attention, so I don't think I necessarily did anything wrong. I read a lot, so I know this kind of thing happens. I like reading the personal stories people tell. Sometimes people just fall out of love. I guess that's what happened to my wife. She just fell out of love with me. Not necessarily anyone's fault, but still really hard for me to accept. The worst thing is that she just decided to just move on. I don't know why I didn't get the courtesy to talk this out. Or why she didn't ask to separate first. Why did she just start dating? She should have just asked for a divorce first, then she could date all she wanted. I was tearing up a little when she came into the guest bedroom. "What are you doing in here?" I turned and just looked at her. I had managed to cut the tears off. She continued, "Come to bed." I paused for only a moment, then got up. I followed her into the bedroom. She asked me to unzip her and I did. I was just silent the whole time, totally confused about how to act or what to do. Finally, I asked, "Where did you go?" She said, "Red, it was really good. I probably should have stuck to 1 drink, but I did have 2. My heart sank. She was so flippant, so nonchalant about the whole thing. "Who did you meet?" She just answered, "His name is John Stanton, he is the cousin of my friend, Helen, she set us up." It was kind of awkward at first, being a blind date and all, we were meeting for the first time, so I didn't really know how to act. Plus, I have never been on an actual date before, so that was also weird. But Helen did good. He was very good looking and charming. I could not believe my ears. Who was this woman? "That place closes at 10, it's 11:30, where did you go after dinner?" She was removing her makeup at her vanity but kept answering, "Oh, nowhere, we just sat in his car and talked." There was physical pain in me I had never known before, yet I persisted, "Is that all you did in his car?" She had finished cleaning up and was now getting undressed. She progressed from her evening wear to completely naked to an old t-shirt and pajama pants as she said, "No, I mean mostly just talked, I was tipsy right after dinner so I was trying to sober up more so I could drive." We talked for 40 minutes. He eventually kissed me and we made out a little. I was feeling more sober after a few minutes and called it a night. We are going to go out again next Friday, so don't make any plans for the both of us. At that point she laid down in the bed. I was just sitting at the foot of the bed completely shell-shocked. As I stared at the carpet, numb to the betrayal I was feeling, she said after a few seconds, "Are you going to lay down?" "It's pretty late." I was like a zombie. I dropped down to my usual boxer shorts only sleep attire and climbed in next to her. I don't know how long I just stared at the ceiling. I just kept staring even as she scooted back to me, pressing her back in but against me in the familiar way we always sleep. My thoughts on how my wife was leaving me, how she was searching for a new man to replace me, and was just going to keep our marriage going until she found one. It was a cruel twist of fate. Still, I felt like she at least owed me some answers. I would get those the next day before I started packing my things. I got up this morning and my wife was still in bed. It wasn't long, by the time I got out of the bathroom, which was only a few minutes, she was up. She made the bed real quick, then took my place in the master bath while I headed downstairs. I sat down at the kitchen table. Wasn't doing anything, just staring. My wife came down not long after and made us a small breakfast. She was acting as though nothing was off. Like it was any old Saturday morning. She began making small talk about what we should get done today. The fact that it was a blind date is the point. But I didn't say that, I was too out of it just hearing her. This is so easy for her, how? Of course there are things I want to do, but that doesn't mean I want to throw away my marriage to do them. She talked a little bit more after that last comment, but I can't remember any of it. She said some things about changes or dynamics or something. I really can't remember, it was like my brain shut down. My wife is dating, and I'm supposed to do what in the meantime? She is out trying to find her next husband, for some reason doesn't think she should divorce me first, which is just unbelievably selfish, and I'm supposed to scratch items off my bucket list until then? I don't know what I'm going to do. Live, I guess, and look for the next Mrs. Powell. Do I even want another Mrs. Powell? Honestly, my biggest debate at this point is what, if anything, do I tell the kids? Their parents are divorcing, their mother is looking for a new husband. I hope they won't take it too hard. This has been a strange and challenging time. My wife has been dating John Stanton, who operates a power washing business, for the last month. At first it was just dinner dates. They went on like 4 of those. Then on this past Friday she told me she wasn't coming home, that she was staying with John overnight. When she got home yesterday around noon, I asked what she did. She looked at me like I was crazy. I spent the night at John's, she said in a confused tone. Doing what? I asked in an accusing tone. She looked around, still feigning confusion. We had sex, twice. That was a dagger in the heart, I thought. Guess she found her man. I shook my head and walked away. She followed me and asked if something was wrong. I just said, no, I know where I stand. She said in a matter-of-fact way, I'm sorry you are feeling this way. It wasn't the first time, I kind of assumed you knew that. Do you need anything? It is normal to feel the way you are, so if you want to talk we can. Why would I want to talk about another guy sleeping with my wife? I just told her no and went about my day. This isn't the worst part though. She just left on another date today. With a different guy, but she literally told me yesterday that she was going back out with John next Friday. I can't make sense of any of this. If she didn't think John was the guy, why sleep with him on Friday and plan another date with him? And I know this guy she went with today. It's flipping Dan Scott. I bought my last 2 vehicles from him. Those will be the last 2, I can tell you that. The most confusing thing is that she keeps treating me like she wants me to be her husband. Actually better, I won't lie, things may have been a little stale before. I never thought this would happen. We definitely still loved each other. Well, I thought we loved each other. She probably still loves me but isn't in love with me. It happens, I read about it all the time. Anyway, like I said, it had gotten a little stale. Yeah, we still had sex some and spent time together, but it was really routine. This past month she has been coming on to me pretty often. Like 4 or 5 times a week. I know she is out looking for a new husband and I should cut her off, but you know what, I don't care, the getting is good and I'm going to get. She also keeps asking me to do stuff with her. So we went to the theater together. She got tickets to a Bills game. I don't get it, she's acting like she was back when we were newlyweds. It's just really odd behavior. If you don't love a guy anymore, and want to be with other people, then why put so much effort into the relationship? She has to have some sort of ulterior motive here. I mean, I keep wondering why she won't just end our marriage. My guess is she wants me to, so that I look like the bad guy. Well, I'm not going to do that. Nor am I going to decline these invites and initiations she keeps making. 2 can play this game. And I have been playing it. I have been doing all the things I wanted to do. Not since that very first date she went on have I stayed at home and stewed in my own self-pity. I go out with friends. I've hit several bars in town, gone axe throwing. No, I'm not just sitting around waiting while she's out with these other guys. The only thing is, I am getting a little lonely while she's out. I didn't think I would be. But knowing she's out there looking for my replacement hurts, because I'm not looking for her replacement. I don't even really want to replace her. I just feel like I don't have a choice in this matter. She is dating. I guess I should do the same thing, but I have never been on a date in my life. You know, it was 8th grade with Angela. I passed her a note asking if she wanted to go out with me. She looked at me and nodded. We then exchanged phone numbers, which were home phone numbers. Sure, we went out together, but those weren't getting to know you dates. We already knew each other. I wouldn't even know how to act on a date, or what's protocol. I've never used a condom before. Do I need one? Oh God, is she using condoms when she's out with John Stanton? Ugh, I can't think about that right now. I'm just not sure about any of this. But I know eventually she is going to drop me whenever she finds the right guy, so the clock is ticking here. I don't want to be left a bitter old man sitting around a one-bedroom apartment waiting to die alone. Guess at some point I am going to have to put myself out there and see what modern women are into. 6 months ago my wife decided she was going to start dating. It began on a blind date with a guy named John Stanton. It definitely did not end there. It doesn't even seem half the time like she is trying to find a new husband. Some of these guys she has been seeing she barely spends any time with at all. Dan Scott is a good example. She was going on a date with him that one Sunday, but she came back to the house like an hour later. I figured it just didn't work out, but now every few weeks on a Sunday, she will tell me she is going to see Dan, and then comes back like an hour later. How in the hell do you even build a rapport with someone in that short of a time? Not really my concern, just find it curious. She still keeps up this happy wife charade. I can't even tell you how many dates her and I have been on. I still accept almost every time unless it conflicts with plans I already have. I'm not giving up on this. She will break and leave before I do. Although it does get really difficult sometimes, especially when curiosity gets the best of me and I ask her about her plans or what she did while she was out. It's not even curiosity sometimes, it's just a habit. You ask a woman about herself every day for over 30 years, it just becomes second nature. She does not hold back. And believe me when I say ignorance is bliss. I will never get the mental image of some of the things she's done out of my head. Hell, I do not even begin to know the exact number of men she has been out with. But it has to be at least 10 men. Some of them are like 25 years old. How in the hell are you going to marry some guy that's only 3 years older than your own daughter? Speaking of the kids, they are still totally in the dark about our impending divorce. I can't bring myself to say anything. When they visit or are home for breaks, my wife ceases all extramarital activity and just spends time with the family. So at least they aren't asking any questions at this point or noticing anything out of the ordinary. I was going along pretty well for the first 4 months after this all started. I had joined a bowling league. I started going out with a couple of single guys from work. They have been a real blast. Yet, I really started to find myself feeling lonely. My wife, while putting in effort when she was home with me, was still going out 1 to 2 nights per week. I guess it started to show around this time because she recommended that I got on a dating app and find someone else for myself. That in itself hurt, because it was her blatantly saying she didn't want me anymore. She wanted me to be with someone else. She then sent me a link to an app. Field is what it was called. I went ahead and filled out all the information and got myself a profile. I didn't really know what to put, so I kept it pretty simple. This didn't get me anywhere, so then Angela got on it and filled in some more about me. That seemed to work because I got matched with a local woman almost right away. Her name is Sarah, 41F. We started just by talking. It was intoxicating getting to know this woman. I hadn't felt this way in a really long time. We talked about everything. I told her about my job and my kids. We both really love the Buffalo Bills. It was just easy. She has worked as an esthetician for 20 years and has a huge client base. She has one son who is 17 years old and a high school senior. The only thing we don't talk about is past or current relationships. She was real clear early on that she was not interested in that, if I was dating other people as well. At the same time, she wouldn't be sharing anything with me about past relationships. I was completely fine with this. I mean, why would I date more than one person at a time anyway? You can't really determine if someone is the one if you are constantly throwing new people in the mix. That's something my wife could use a lesson in. Well, in the 6 weeks that Sarah and I have been together, we have done a lot of great stuff. Our Friday night dates are always the highlight of my week. Angela also seems to be happy for me, which is weird, but I guess it eases the guilt that I am finding my next spouse as well. Maybe she will even be inspired by Sarah and I to settle down and do this right. As of right now, I am still doing my dates and sleeping in the same bed with Angela, but I feel like that may change in the next few weeks as Sarah and I progress our relationship. In all, this isn't what I wanted, or thought would happen. I thought Angela and I would be together forever. At least I know I can build a future with Sarah.